I'll start. Hey, Geno, it's Doug with our Hearst Connecticut Media. Just what when did you find out about the positive test, and kind of how does obviously this change your plans?
Um, well, everyone in our tier one group tests 3 times a week. And after yesterday's test on Monday, we discovered one positive, and that effectively put us in the protocol of being unable to get together as an entire group for 14 days starting today. And obviously, not playing this weekend and not playing the Louisville game. The Seton Hall game was already in jeopardy because of issues. So not having those 4 games and not being able to be with the team, as an entire group till December 8th would be our first practice. Obviously that changes everything that we have planned. And like everything else this year, you just roll with it and make adjustments and move on.
Geno, Jim Clark, any idea whether there's any practical way that you can reschedule these games, or are they effectively done?
Well, it's funny how you never know what anything is for sure, or when anything is guaranteed or it's ending. You're always in this is what it is right now. Right now, the tournament this weekend and the Louisville game, they're gone unless what? Unless at some point during the season, something happens and any one of these teams are looking for a game and we're looking for a game, so it could be resurrected. The Seton Hall game will be rescheduled for sure, because that's a conference game, and everything that can be done will be done to reschedule that game, and we'll have a date on that very shortly. But the others, not being able to start practice until December the 8th, we already have a game scheduled with Butler on the 15th. So I don't know whether we'd have enough time to practice as a team to fit a game in there. And then we're pretty swamped all the way up till Christmas with regularly scheduled games. So I don't know where there might be an opening.
There's been some talk. Rick Pitino has been tweeting the last couple of days. Let's do May Madness. Let's wait till the vaccines. Why does it have to be March Madness? What are your thoughts about that? Is that something you think about?
Well, Dave Benedict and I had multiple conversations about this in September. And what we talked about a lot was February 1st starting date and go February, March, April, May. But, I don't study this every day. I'm not in Indianapolis. I'm not at the NCAA offices, and the people that are really, really smart people. I mean, Danny Gavitt, that I've known for forever, is one of the most well-respected people in the entire business, and a dear friend of mine. And I'm sure a lot of thought and a lot of planning went into it, because there's no guarantees. It just looks bad right now, but there's no guarantees that, it would be any better. And I think everything was being done to protect the NCAA tournament in some way, shape, or form, and to try to keep it in that slot, I imagine. But in a perfect world, if you could write your own script, does later give you a better chance. But again, that's just hoping that things change.
Howard Megdal with the Nets. Wondering, we saw things like Jeff Walls on Twitter yesterday looking for an opponent from a Monday to play on a Wednesday and set something up. I mean, is that just going to be the nature of the way you guys are approaching scheduling? And have you already thought about just how you're going to go about doing that? Like, do you have to grow your Twitter account in order to make sure you get to the right opponent?
That's good. That's a good question. I don't know. I think everybody's going to be in this scenario at some point. Either already has been, is, or will be. You can just pretty much predict that. The one thing that I've been struggling with in talking with my coaches and other coaches around the country, there seems to be such a widespread and such disparity between how each conference, each part of the country, each state chooses to handle any of these occurrences. So in Connecticut here, it's, okay, you had contact with this many people, blah, 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 blah. It's 14 days. Someplace else, maybe or may not be. Hey, we're going to do contact tracing. We're going to get everybody. Some other place, you may contact trace, you may not. Hey, we're going to test, 3 times a week, every day. Some places, yeah, we're going to do the minimum. I could be back in 7 days. No, you got to wait 14 days. Well, some other places, hey, 2 kids have it. These 2 kids are out. Everybody else, we move on. And you've seen it all over the country. So, given the nature of that, I can see this happening every week. Every week, where, one place says, yeah, we're good to go. The other school says, no, you're not. This is what we have in front of us right now until further notice.
Coach, it's Frankie Graziano from Connecticut Public. What can you tell us about the potential exposure, and how hard is it getting to try to keep COVID-19 out of practice, out of school, out of everywhere?
Well, I mean, we've done a pretty good job of it up to this point, but there is no, there is no guarantee of it, of how to keep it out. There's some behaviors that are inexcusable, right? You go to this big party inside a house, you go to this event, this gathering, a public event, and they're not practicing any kind of social distancing or protocols. Yeah, there are some things that are just, beyond your imagination. Why would you do that? But then there's other instances where everyone's taking every precaution and boom, you still get a positive test. So is there a way to keep it out? No, I don't think there is. Because if there was, everybody would be doing it. So there is no magic something that we could say, okay, everybody's going to do this, and now boom, we don't have to deal with it anymore. Until we have a vaccine and everyone's been vaccinated. See, those are 2 separate things. I think we're going to be struggling.
To that end, Coach, this is Erica Ayala with The Next. Can you talk about, what opportunities the players have to make choices that they feel are best suited for themselves and their family regarding COVID-19? And as you said, the fact that this is an ever-evolving, ever-changing situation.
Right. Well, every player at every school, just like you're seeing in the NBA, you saw in the NBA or Major League Baseball or the NFL, any professional sport, and the same with any university in America. Any player that feels as though they cannot be present and perform and feel safe about it has the option to opt out. So that's if they feel like that's in the best interest personally and with their family, then yeah, they certainly have the opportunity to do that. None of our players have indicated anything like that. They want to play. They want to play. But I can understand, why some people, especially, have decided to opt out. Everyone's got to make their own decisions here.
Hey, Geno, this is Charlotte Carroll from. Geno, it's Pat at the AP. Can you discuss how the person who tested positive is feeling? Are they symptomatic, asymptomatic? Did they do something stupid, or was this a matter of you weren't expecting this test result? And are they isolating alone, or are they in a pod? Or I mean, it could be staff. I don't know, but what are the details there?
There's there's only so much I can say. It was a member of the Tier 1 group, and I can tell you it wasn't a player and it wasn't a coach, but there's so many people that go into making this program work, and there's no symptoms. Person's completely asymptomatic. I have no reason to believe that they were in any way, shape, or form being reckless and wanting to just throw caution to the wind. Again, it's just one of those things that happen, and following all the protocols during quarantine, and we get, we have our next test tomorrow morning, and then we'll have another one Friday morning, and we're going to wait and see what the results are, and if we get everything that we expect to get, we'll start back on the court in our pods again.
Jeff, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Geno, Jeff Jacobs.
Yeah.
You did talk a little about your players being able to opt out if they wanted to, but as this kind of roller coaster goes along, I've heard some coaches saying how resilient their kids are, and other ones worry about how much, I hesitate the word damage, but damage, it does to their psyche during the course of a season. How much do you worry about, just the kind of mental health and competitive health of your kids as they go in and out of this, and broadly and specifically with your team?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of layers to that, obviously, Jeff. But I understand what everyone is trying to do. Don't get me wrong. I understand what everyone is trying to do. Schools are trying to figure out a way to do this because it's essential to some schools' survival in some ways. Players want to play. Coaches want to coach. Fans want to watch a game. TV wants games on television. There's a lot of people affected by all this. Universities want kids on campus. They want them, boarding and, everything that goes with that. So everyone has a stake in this. I get it. Players may want to opt out. I get that too. I don't know what the right decisions are to make or were to make. I just know what the effects of all the decisions have been. And I can just speak for me personally, that since March, I've been like everyone else in America, in a different state than I was in before March, in a different frame of mind, in a different place. Okay. Our players, since that day in March when they found out there was no NCAA tournament, have been in a different place. And we've all tried to make it as best we can, put them in an environment that seems comfortable for them and can be safe. But I have to tell you, being in it, I have tremendous empathy for my players. When we talked yesterday about us having to put a pause on this, I felt really guilty that it was happening to them. I felt bad, like I had a hand in this, and they came back at me with, "Coach, these things are out of our control, and we'll come back from this and we'll deal with it, and we're going to be even better than we were before going into it." So as far as kids being resilient, yeah, they want this so bad that they understand, there's nothing we can do to prevent this, and there's nothing we can do to avoid the consequences of what happens when it strikes. But how resilient can you be? I don't know. That much more than I am. It's been a real struggle for me, as I'm sure it's been a real struggle for other coaches in the country. It's been a real struggle for parents, for teachers, for anyone, healthcare workers especially. It's been an incredible struggle for families. So there isn't anyone that's escaped this and said, yeah, hasn't affected me one bit. But these kids want this so bad that I call it, they've been held hostage since the end of July. They can't go anywhere. They can't talk to anybody. They can't do anything. And for a couple hours every day, they're allowed out, to get some recess. It's incredible what's happened to them. And yet they hang in there, and they don't talk about, I'm done with this. They just talk about, when's our first game? When are we playing? When's our next practice? And I guess that's, to me, seems to be the best way to do it. But, at this point in time where I'm supposed to be there, I'm supposed to be giving them all the good stuff that they need. I'm getting it from them. It's, Coach, relax, man. Everything will be all right. Coach, don't worry. Everything's fine. We're going to be really fine. Don't worry. Don't beat yourself up. They are unbelievable. I mean, beyond unbelievable, to be honest with you.
It's Carl Adamek. Have you spoken to anyone that's had the pause yet? Have you had the opportunity to reach out, even if it was Dan Hurley or anyone outside the school?
Yeah, I talk to coaches all the time, and as I was saying, it's incredible how many different theories you get. Who's doing testing? Who's doing contact tracing? Who's had the pause? And some of the questions, wait, you had this happen and there was no pause? No, we just took kids that were tested positive and we put them, in quarantine or for their 10 days or whatever the case may be when you're positive. And, life goes on. And you get everything in between that, and no one can talk to anybody for 14 days. So those people that have had a pause, they all say the same thing. They don't know what to do with 3 kids at a time. And what do you do with 4 at a time? What do you do at this late stage? This isn't June. This isn't June where you just work on individual instruction and just, you're trying to get ready for games. You're trying to put a team together. So what do you do with 3 players? So everyone is scrambling to try to find what's the right thing to do. And, to the questions, earlier about where are they mentally? They can't, they probably are doing the best they can and they put up a good front. But how many hits have they been asked to take, especially the freshmen, given what happened to them their senior year, the end of their senior year in high school, and what their first year in college has been like? So really, even when you do get them on the court, are they really all there, or are they in some state of funk? I don't know.
Joe,
this is Alexa Philpott. How much do you worry, if at all, about injury prevention once they do come back? Obviously, taking maybe if they're able to be in their pods, that allows them to do some sort of activity, but you don't want them to come back too soon, I'm sure, and actually get injured for longer.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how you prevent all that from happening. I think what you can do is try to put yourself in a position where you're working in conjunction with your strength coach and conditioning and your athletic training staff and your medical staff, and saying, okay, let's keep an eye on this and let's make sure we're working on this. And our conditioning, we try to keep that up and get in the weight room and do some things on the court. But I don't know how you get in game shape unless you're playing. I don't know how you how you can stay in basketball shape unless you're going up and down, a lot with real basketball stuff going on. So I think every coach does worry that when that season opener does come, are we going to be ready? Will we be prepared physically? Forget the mental part. Physically, are we going to be, especially with all these young players? I mean, sure, if you have a veteran team, you're saying they know how to be in shape. They know how to take care of themselves. They've been through the whole process for 3 years, whatever. When you got 7, kids that haven't played, 6 freshmen, yeah, that's a huge worry. No question.
Coach, it's Maria from SNY. I was wondering if you could expand on the communication you've had with the athletes. It seems like they've been handling it fairly maturely, even sort of lifting you up. What is your message to them, or are you forming a message to them, especially these freshmen who've been through so much?
Well, the message was pretty straightforward. This is where we are. This is what we're mandated to do. And, I can't make it any better for you. I can't deliver it any easier for you and make it go down smoother. So what we have to do is do what we've been doing for a long, long time now. Just, keep calm and carry on, as the saying goes. And I can't say, look, guys, I know how you feel. I don't. I'm not, I'm not a player. I haven't put that kind of physical work into it that they have. And I'm not a freshman, who's been wanting to play basketball. And each time they think they have it, it's taken away from them. So I'm just trying to reassure them that, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. It'll be fine. It'll be great. Don't worry. It's, things are going to be great. I'm sure there was a guy on the Titanic who was in charge of saying that. I just hope I'm not that guy.
Thanks, Megan Caffrey with the Big East Conference. Kind of piggybacking a little bit off of Alexa's question, but when you're looking at the game plan of attack, when you come back from a 14-day pause, how do you get back into practice? What is the plan with going back in normal? What's the game plan in that sense of a pause and then getting back into it to prepare to get to game time?
Well, first, it's a situation you've never been in. So there's never been a time in your coaching career where somebody says, hey, by the way, just when you think you've put your team together and you're on the brink of playing, you have to stop for 2 weeks and then start back up again and get ready to play, a few days later. There's no, hey, remember when we did that in 1998? There's none of that. So we're all kind of flying here without any instruments, we're just kind of going by feel. And we're going to have maybe a week of practice before we play our first game. So it's kind of like when I was coaching the national team, I would get together and I would go, okay, what are 3 or 4 things that we know for sure we need to be able to do? And I would always go into every one of those saying, man, every other team has had months to get ready. We have 5 days. But you figure it out. And when they get here, you start to look at them and say, okay, what do we look like? What's it feel like? What are the 4 or 5 things that we have to have, taken care of before we play? And then you just start, checking those off, each day. And then you just try to make it to the first game. And then after that first game, then that game, that performance is kind of going to drive you in what you're going to have to do till the next game. And then the next game, you'll find out some things that will drive you to the next game. But getting to that first game is what's going to be the feel part of it. You know, hey, what's it feel like? What's it look like? What's the vibe in here? And how do we, and that's going to take some doing, but we won't know that until we've had a chance to spend some time with them.
As you know, this is Charlotte Cal from The Athletic. Hope you're doing well. What's the difference for you starting with going into conference play versus having those non-conference matchups, especially those potentially top 10 showdowns with Mississippi State and Louisville? Or is there too much of a difference at this point?
I mean, I don't know. I always take it from I can see both sides of it all the time. All the time. So if we were playing Mississippi State on Sunday, I would tell you it's a great challenge for our young players. If we were playing Louisville, I would tell you, yeah, I want to see right now, what are these kids made of? The fact that we don't have those games and our first game might be, the 15th against Butler. I don't know anything about, Butler's personnel because I've not had a chance to coach against them. This will be my first time. So my feeling would be, okay, we get to start off with a conference game that really means an awful lot when you think about, goal number one, you're trying to win the Big East. We have a young team. Hey, maybe it's better if we don't play two teams in the top 10 the first week. Maybe that's a good thing. So, I see both sides of it, and I can spin that wheel any which way that makes me feel better, and that's what I'm going to do.
Coach Auriemma, this is Michelle Vopel from ESPN.com. It seems like largely spurred by COVID, we've seen greater organizational, outreach by parents of athletes. Obviously, we saw that with the Big Ten in football. There's this organization that announced it's starting a parents organization for college basketball players, and COVID obviously is one of the sparks of this. Do you feel like we're going to see groups like this be more influential in college sports? And I mean that specifically, parents of athletes organizing as a group to advocate for their kids. And is there some good and bad in what that's going to mean?
Yeah, obviously, anything that brings any kind of awareness to an issue is a good thing. Whether you expose something great in it or whether you expose something bad in it, that's a good thing. If a group of parents wants to get together and advocate for their child's health and safety and wanting to make sure that everything is being done to give their children a healthy and safe environment to participate in, to thrive in. Yes. That's all good. It's all great. When the parents group is formed to decide who plays and who doesn't, that's going to be a problem. Those already exist. They're just not public. But I do think in the area of health and safety and that physical health, mental health, doesn't matter. And how coaches treat individual players. Yes, all those things. I think bringing some kind of awareness to that and seeing what other groups have done. Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And as long as it stays in its place, because, the interesting thing is we as coaches don't get an opportunity to go tell parents, this is how I want you to raise your child from now on. So it'd be difficult for parents to say, this is how I want you to coach my kid. But I think parents have every right to say, I don't want my kid in an unsafe environment. I don't want you to shirk your responsibility. I don't want you to cut corners just so you can play a game. I don't want you to put, you know, the priority on anything but the health and safety and of your student athletes. I love that about it.
Hey, Geno, it's Doug Feinberg. I got a follow-up question. Just what's the protocol? Is it one positive test and you're done, or is they do a follow-up to that to make sure it's just not a false positive? And the other one is, how are you doing mentally? I mean, you mentioned the kids, like you're out for the next 14 days. I'm guessing you probably have a glass of wine or two, but like, what do you do for the next 14 days when your team's on?
Well, you know, to answer your second question first, through contact tracing and how we, you know, the normal protocols, our coaching staff is not in a quarantine situation at this time. Our team is, but our coaching staff is not. So I'm not in quarantine. The wine part is really good. I just have to make sure that I I have to make sure I don't get too enamored with all that, because it's easy to feel as a coach. It's easy to feel like it's so uncontrollable. It's so out of your control. Because coaches are control freaks by nature. You know, we want to have everything planned for. We want everything in its place. We want a schedule for everything. And now we don't have one. And that's a very difficult place to be. And I feel like I've been there. Like, again, I don't want to single out coaches because I don't think there's anything special about what we do relative to the rest of the workforce in America. I feel like I've been in this state since March. I'm not in a great place. I'm not in a bad place. I'm just I'm in a neutral space that, you know, it's hard to get excited every day because tomorrow might be the day where you say the season's over. So, you know, you're in this, you take everything. You just, that's how it is right now. You probably asked me something else, but again,
Just the first part of like
that foggy mind that they talk about, I think I have that right now. Go ahead.
The protocol, like, so is it one positive test and you're done?
Yeah,
it's not false.
The individual that tested positive yesterday is being tested again today. And obviously, if that's negative, then there'll be another one right after that. And obviously, that would be ideal, wouldn't it? But if the one today comes back positive like yesterday's, then, you know, everybody who had contact, you know, and all the contact tracing, everyone in tier 1, you know, will be subject to quarantine.
Coach, you just mentioned that the players are in quarantine, but the coaching staff is not. Are there any other members of tier 1 that are also quarantining, or is it just the players right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
Is it everyone but the coaches?
No.
Geno, is there, Jim Clark from Women's Hoops World, is there any thought that, given how frequently you're all tested, that if, say, the entire group that is not this person who tested positive tests negative, say 3 days or 5 days apart, that you could talk to the Department of Health and get them to give you guys a waiver? Because they do that for some groups. Or do you think that would just be a publicity nightmare?
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that if we are all, if come Wednesday, come Friday, everybody's negative, that we just, we go to the Department of Health and say, hey, we're good to go. Come on. I think those are reserved for like NFL teams and college football teams in certain parts of the country. I don't think our state here in the great state of Connecticut, I don't think they would go for that. I mean, maybe that's why they've done such an amazing job throughout this entire, since March. The state has done a phenomenal job of keeping this thing, under control for the most part relative to the rest of the country.
You have a big family. What are your Thanksgiving Day plans amongst all this craziness?
Yeah, all those things now go kind of by the wayside. Everything's become very small, very small. Thanksgiving for us, really, when you have kids that are married and then you have kids that are, doing their own thing, really hard to get everybody in one place at one time because of their commitments to other families. So there's only one thing that everyone who marries or dates or gets involved with any of my kids or anything, there's only one date they got to mark, and that's Christmas Eve. And unless they happen to, get connected with, some princess or some, king or queen, I might give that up. My wife will not. Christmas Eve, and that's going away too already. And we have about 50 people in my house on Christmas Eve, and it's been going on for about 25 years. And then this year it's not going to happen. So whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, it doesn't matter. Everything's been brought, into a very, very small celebration.
Hi, Geno. This is Charlotte again. To kind of follow up on that, what are you guys doing as coaching staff for the players? While they're in quarantine, especially with Thanksgiving on Thursday, are you guys kind of doing anything differently? I know you've had those kind of activities and stuff, but just to keep them as positive as they seem to tell you they are.
Well, we just got off a meeting with them before I got on this call, and we have dining scenarios that we're putting in place for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're trying to make their Thanksgiving something other than just another day of the week. So we're working on that right this moment. I guess it's fortuitous that I own a restaurant, huh?